Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy, Canadian Open, research, picks, field preview, course breakdown, and as always, use code MAYO at UnderdogFantasy.com. Get yourself a deposit bonus of up to $250. Help support the show and put some bucks in your pocket. At the same time, my walkthrough today is powered by FantasyNational.com, FantasyNational.com/Mayo to get 20% off any of the membership levels, full access to the tools that you'll be seeing while I'm doing the research, plus more tools that I'm not using during the research, and access to the live leaderboard app, the best app to track golf in the biz. Smash the like while you're here, sub to the channel, do all that fun stuff. Apologies for the delay on the show. I had a back seizure. If that's basically every muscle in my back tensed up when I was away on a golf retreat on Friday, and it's been a very tiresome 2 days to try to get that rectified. Still not rectified as of yet. My back muscles are still basically tensed up. I need to wait till Monday, I suppose, to get back to the doctor. Tried to get some treatment. Didn't really work out. I'm not even 40 yet, and I'm already having these problems. So I do not look forward to what the next 20 years of my life are going to be with back problems. Not fun whatsoever. Hard to swing a golf club in that sense as well. The field for the Canadian Open this year is a bit lackluster. Rory is there to top it off. It's essentially like an elevated event for the DP World Tour when you take a look at everyone. You got Rory, you got Tommy, Noren, Lowry, they're all at the top, and then you have 25 Canadian players in the field. Even if someone is Canadian adjacent, they are playing in the field this week. Then you have a few more of your Team RBC players. Sahith Theegala is playing, Sam Burns is playing, and Cam Young are all playing in this event as well. And then you'll see a spattering of those mid-tier type players all around. And look, it's probably for good reason. Next week is Memorial. It's a signature event. Then the U.S. Open, and then the Travelers, which I still believe is a signature event as well. So it's going to be very difficult for a lot of the players, especially the ones that teed off at Colonial this week, be it Scotty, Spieth, Morikawa, Homa. They probably just didn't want to play 4 weeks in a row, 5 weeks in a row. So this is a very logical rest week for most of the tour. But it's very nice to see that some of the top-end players and Rory's commitment to my National Open every single year. Rory obviously won at this course last time around, but it's probably... Actually, you know what? Before we go into that, it was just released. I'm sure that everyone saw it. Grayson Murray, over the weekend, as it turned out, that he took his own life. It's incredibly sad news. His parents just released a statement as I'm filming this on a Sunday, and I just wanted to throw it out there to anyone. The responses to this, and every time that you see it, are almost always the same. And whether you've been directly affected by it, indirectly affected by someone taking their own life, or someone struggling with their mental health, that everyone after the fact always says the same thing. Oh boy, I wish there was more I could do. I wish there was more to reach out. So if you out there are suffering from any sort of these thoughts, there's suicide hotlines that you can call, mental health hotlines, or whether it is, hell, reaching out to me via email. I will sit there and talk to you. I'm sure that almost anyone you know will help you get through this trying time. So if you're feeling any sort of those thoughts, please do not be afraid to reach out. The destigmatization of this needs to be something that happens more often, just so we can avoid tragedies like this. So if anyone out there is dealing with those sort of thoughts, please reach out to someone, anyone, and I guarantee you that there will be people out there to help you through this, all right? Let's get into the course. Hamilton Golf and Country Club. The last time that we saw it was in 2019. Rory just went hog wild in the final round. I remember very vividly. My friend from Calgary came in, stayed with me the night before, took the train down to Hamilton to watch Rory shoot a 61 and end up winning at this event. He was 4 back after Thursday, but improved every round, went 67, 66, 64, 61. 61 was the second best of the week after Snedeker carded a 60 on Friday. It is funny because when you think about Rory being the winner, it's like, oh, bombs away, just go do that. But when we go take a look at the stats from 2019, that's not exactly what happened at the very top of the leaderboard. It's a par 70, just a shade under 7,100 yards, V8 creeping bent grass for the greens, 88 bunkers on the course, 9 water hazards with an average square footage of the greens at around 6,000 1,000%. It will be the third shortest course that the PGA Tour has seen so far this season. After the 2019 event, there were renovations on the course. They reconstructed the tees, the bunkers, the greens on all 27 holes on the property and put in a new irrigation system, but it doesn't seem like the routing has been changed at all. The course itself will look very similar to what it did last time around. They did add in some more trees, renovated. Golf Digest called it the 2022 best renovation of the year, so that'll be exciting to see. And the area has benefited from a mild winter and a very early spring that all of the grass should be coming in exactly what it was designed to do. It's actually a split between the west and south courses at the course as well at Hamilton Golf and Country Club. And when you take a look at the original designer, he's British. He did Portrush. He did Royal Liverpool, which is funny because you see Rory and Lowry come 1-2 on the leaderboard last time around. That Rory won a major at Royal Liverpool. Harmon actually won there last year. We can take a look at that. And Shane Lowry won at Portrush. So it was very interesting to see those two names. Now, those were two of the better players in the field as well, so it's probably not shocking that that ended up happening. I think Lowry won in 2019 at Portrush, so he was coming in with some great form, if anything else. Par 3s on the course are pretty long, over 212 yards overall. Three of the four are over 200 yards. The shortest one, number 16, basically plays at par. The other three rank 2, 3, and 4 in terms of difficulty. Even in Rory Sunday 61, he only had one green in regulation on those par 3s. So tread some water on the par 3s. The par 4s, there's 12 of them, 427 yards on average. Number 18 is the most difficult hole on the property, playing 0.26 strokes over par on average with just a 5.5% birdie rate. So it's going to be tough to try to gain strokes towards the end, although bogey might be in the cards for a lot of people. Number 5 is the easiest of the par 4s. It's 308 yards. Rory hit the fairway just once, but birdied it 3 times out of 4. The par 5s, 561 yards, 2 easiest holes on the course with an eagle rate over 2.5 and a sub 8% bogey rate as well. Rory was under par on number 17 all 4 rounds in 2019, including an eagle on Sunday. It's tough to shoot a 61 without having too many eagles on the scorecard, even at a par 70. But overall, as you can see, there's bunkers everywhere. It actually played a lot more difficult than you would think. You take a look at Rory's score, minus 22, and just assume that it was one of the easier courses. It really wasn't the case at all. He just happened to have one of the best rounds of his career and just absolutely annihilated the place. His weekend was one of the best weekends he has ever had on the PGA Tour. He won by 7 over Webb Simpson and Shane Lowry. So minus 22 is probably not going to be the winning score this time around. I'd guess probably like minus 13, minus 14, a little bit more difficult than what we saw at Oakdale a year ago. Let's jump over to Fantasy National to see if we can try to make sense of some of this course. You can change it to golf, Hamilton Golf and Country Club during the course breakdown. As you can see, hole number 18, the most difficult on the course with a 24% bogey rate. There are 3 holes that have over a 20% bogey rate, and another 2, that's the par 3 number 13th and the par 3 number 8th at right around 19% as well. Then number 3 is around a 17% bogey rate, but it does have a 16% birdie rate too, so it's sort of a feast or famine type hole. The par 5 number 4, 3.3% eagle rate, and then that drivable-ish par 4, most of those came from chip-ins, not putts, but a 1.5% eagle rate. So you can get yourself in proximity enough towards the hole in order to make eagle. Although the birdie rate is sub 30%, the bogey rate is around 8%. It's a very easy hole. It's the 3rd easiest on the course, but it's not as big of a gimme as some of the other shorter par 4s that we've seen. So here's what I was alluding to a little bit before. And we'll take a look at this when we do a more in-depth breakdown of the strokes gain results from 2019, but it was pretty flat in terms of tee to green, and you had to make putts. Like, putting was everything at this course, and it kind of even comes a bit more pronounced when you go up into the top 5 finishers. So we're just taking it from top 10 to top 5, the average finishers gained almost 2 strokes per round on the green. Well, a half stroke here, half stroke there. Then we kind of take a look at the Rory profile. He did a little bit better than that. He gained a bunch off the tee, a bunch on approach, and not quite as much putting, but still, 1.5 strokes per round, almost 6 strokes gained on the greens. He was just excellent in all facets of the game. He beat up on the par 5s, treaded water on the par 3s, did all right on the par 4s, better than field average, but really beat up on the par 5s. There's only only 2 of them on the course, so as a par 70, that's something to really look at. 200 plus approach shots, that makes a lot of sense with 3 of the 4 par 3s coming from beyond 200 yards, but everything else after that, nothing over 20% in any of the bucket ranges, but a lot more wedges in your hand than anything else on the par 4s. Coming in, the cut line was -1 in 2019, and the driving accuracy was much lower. There's they're bent grass greens, but there's bluegrass and POA in terms of the rough. It can get pretty sticky on you. You can see the green regulation percentage was a little bit down, scrambling a little bit higher, 3 putts a little bit lower because of the size of the greens, slightly below average, and the average driving distance was about average to what we see normally on the PGA Tour. It just basically plays at your average difficulty, average driving distance, average scrambling, average 3 putts, everything like that. The only thing that's a little bit lower is the driving accuracy, and it really depends on where you get yourself, because there's, as you saw, there were trees outlining a lot of these courses. One bad break could be the end of you on some of these holes. You have to punch out, or you just do not have a shot at the green. Fortunately, getting it up and down from the green side isn't the most difficult that we've seen in recent history. So we'll take a look at the tournament history. We want to go back to 2019. As I said, the last time that it was played here. Many courses in the Canadian Open Rota, but again, 2019, Rory was the winner at Hamilton Golf and Country Club, -22. Scott Piercy won in 2012 at -17. He also ran a really hot putter that year. Jim Furyk in 2006 was your winner the last time it had been contended before that. So we take a look at the Rory profile, 15.2 strokes tee to green. No one else inside the top 7, which included Webb, Lowry, Kuchar, Snedeker, Hadwin, Im, and Willett, Stenson, and McDowell rounded out the top 10. So basically 10 of the, especially in 2019, probably 10 of the top 20 in odds were the guys that populated the top 10 that week. Only Hadwin gained 8 strokes tee to green. Willett gained 9.2. Willett was the only one inside the top 20 who ended up losing strokes putting for the week. Dustin lost chipping and putting. That's why he ended up in a tie for 20th that week. I remember Morikawa coming onto the scene. He would eventually go and I think this was his first start as a professional, because I think, he did this, and then I think he followed this up playing in the U.S. Open. I can't remember if this was the year that it was still after the Open Championship, or if it was the week. I think it was the week before the U.S. Open. And then Morikawa went and played Pebble Beach. He and Hovland were making their debuts at the U.S. Open that year. Can't exactly piece it together in my mind. It's been a long time since we've been through that, but you just see the putting. The putting splits are outrageous here. One guy inside the top 15 ended up losing strokes putting, and only one other one, that was Mac Hughes of all people, didn't gain more than 2 strokes putting. But Rory, 6 strokes. Webb, 9 strokes. Lowry, almost 8. Kuchar, over 8. Snedeker, over 7. Hadwin, 3.2. Sungjae, 6. Stenson, 4.5. McDowell, 5. Tringali, 3.5. Wes Roach, 4.5. So if you're not bringing your putter A game this week, you basically have no chance at this tournament, from what it is telling us. In this particular year. Let's see, 2014 was the other year where Scott Piercy ended up winning. Let's take a look at the strokes gained. 2012 is what I'm looking for. Yeah, this was the Royal Montreal year, where the President's Cup is going to be, was 2014 Canadian Open. Tim Clark ended up winning. Yeah, I don't think there was much in the way of strokes gained in 2012. Oh, no, there was. You see, Robert Garrigus, of all people, ended up coming in second that year. He ended up losing 3 strokes putting, gained an outrageous 17.1. So it does seem like if you are a bomber and you can keep it relatively straight, you can gain a lot of strokes on the field. Part of that has to do with field strength a lot of the time as well, where you don't see your very top end bombers at this course. But for the most part, you don't have a lot of bombers up here. You have guys that just putted really well for that week. 7, 9.4, 6.3, 5.6, 7.3. And when you see someone like Shane Lowry gain almost 8 strokes putting, it's not really determinant on, are they the greatest putters in the world? Mac Hughes lost strokes putting. Shane Lowry gained 8. Not something you really imagine happening in 2024 with the way that Shane Lowry does putt, but it's just funny to see that pop up. But almost across the board, just gaining strokes everywhere, tee to green, in all 3 facets, and then gaining a bunch on the greens. That's the way that we've seen it. So try to target your aggressive approach players who still have good tee to green everywhere, and hopefully that's something that can materialize through for us this time around. jumping back to the field itself, we take a look at my strokes gain model, which I have loaded in right now over the past 24 rounds. It's just sort of a weight of your general. I don't have ball striking or short game weighted at all as a part of this model, just because it's there for me to see if I want to do it, because it's factored in other ways. Total 19, off the tee 17, approach 30, around the green 13, putting 15, tee to green 8, just to kind of see it and throw a bit more of that mix in there. So over the past 24 rounds, when we're taking a look at everyone, Rory, Noren, Akshay, Connors, Sahith, Kelly Craft, Aaron Rai. This strikes me as a really good Aaron Rai course, weirdly enough. We've seen European players do very well, British players in particular, and it kind of fits with what he does. He has been gaining strokes putting, which is nice to see, which is not something Aaron Rai normally does, but tee to green, this is kind of his jam. He gains a little bit everywhere if he can have one of those really good weeks. Then all of a sudden, we're looking a little bit better. Let's see what we do for Open Championships. Did he make the Open Championship a year ago? He didn't make the Open Championship a year ago. So let's take a look at 2022. And then we're going to flip that back over to 2023, just in case there is something to look at with Portrush and some of the players, with Royal Liverpool. You see Rory came in 6th. Obviously, he won it the time before. Cam Young, is in the field this week as well. He was T8 there. Fleetwood in the field this week. He was T10. Stenson, who had a top 10 at the Canadian Open in 2019, was T13. So maybe there is a little bit of crossover that we're looking at this week in terms of the different types of player. If we kind of go through, Nikolai Højgaard is playing. He was T23. Maybe it's time for him to break through on the PGA Tour at a better event. Noren was inside the top 25. Adam Scott is playing this week. He was T33. And then just kind of going down the list, a lot of your regulars that are playing. Surprised not to see Matt Fitzpatrick in the field this week, but I guess you can't bank on everyone playing this time around. Even Willett made the cut a year ago, and he was T10, or T9, at the Canadian Open in 2009. And take a look back at Portrush. I think that was more bomber-centric because you had Brooks, J.B. Holmes. Tommy was 2nd, Finau. Just trying to see if any of these names pop up. I think Bobby Mack is playing this week. Let's see, Robert McIntyre. Yeah, Bobby Mack is in the field this time around. And try to pull those ones back up. Oh, Tom Lewis, John Rahm. There's Alex Noren again inside the top 15. I would assume that Noren's probably going to be a pretty popular bet depending on what his odds are going to be when you end up seeing a much weaker field. And just to see the performance that he's had recently. He's just been very good, very consistent overall, and just putting up, if you just bet the guy top 20 every week, you've been doing pretty well. T12, T24, 3rd, 23rd, 14th, 11th, 19th, 9th are his past starts. He hasn't missed a cut since the Fortinet Championship to kick off the 2023 swing season. He has not missed anything since then. So, he is due for a breakout, but we've been saying that for about 7 years now, and it just has not happened. It has not materialized. Could this be the week? I think it's a good course for him where distance isn't going to be the number one attribute. You really do want to look at some sort of accurate type players as well. Akshay kind of stuck out to me. Corey Connors as well. If they can roll the hot putter, Akshay, I would say, would be a little bit better, although his driving has been really bad. The around the green is up and down. He's not going to be lights out with his approach every single week, but he did almost gain 5 strokes on approach through 2 rounds at the PGA Championship. He was playing with Bryson, I think, for the first 2 rounds. Just lost a tremendous amount on the greens, which is the first time he had done that in a while. This strikes me almost like Valero in a weird way, where it could be that type of course where people pop up. We take a look at Valero. Obviously, Corey Connors has won there twice before at TPC San Antonio. Akshay won this week. The Todd father is up there. Shank, Fleetwood, Ben Martin, Matt Fitzpatrick, Custy Pete. Oh, McClure Messenger up there too. What did Noren end up coming? I feel like Noren challenged for a bit. He came T14 for the week. But these are the sort of courses that I would start to look at, especially due to field strength and some of the very higher end players, be it Rory or Fleetwood playing in this event might try to give you a little bit more insight to what's going on at Hamilton Golf and Country Club. You saw Bud Colley inside the top 10 in 2012. That was an awful long time ago, though, so maybe we don't need to look at that one as much. Best approach players over the past 24, Connors, Akshay, Kelly Craft. I feel like I bet Kelly Craft somewhere recently. I think it was at Myrtle Beach. Didn't end up coming through. I think he ended up rallying a little bit, but he was T13 at the Byron Nelson. The approach play had been very good for him. He kind of let it go a little bit that week. Aaron Rai continues to be up there. Svensson, Ryan Moore having a pretty decent week at Colonial this week as well. Thigala, you're going to get hit or miss. I do worry about his inaccuracy off the tee, where he can gain a lot of strokes some weeks and it can really bury him. But maybe, it's not like he had a bad PGA Championship. He had a really bad round at the PGA Championship in the final round, only birdieing 1 and 18 and really not filling anything in. But generally speaking, you think he'd be better around the greens because that had been sort of his MO for most of his career until lately. The past 2 months have not been good, but the off the tee has been good. The approach has been good. The putting can really spike. This could be another spot for Sahith. I just worry that he's going to open at 14-1. We're not going to have a good time trying to bet Sahith at 14-1. Although when he got his win in Napa earlier this year, those were kind of the odds that we were looking at in that weaker field when it came around. Ben Martin, Johnny Vegas has won the Canadian Open, albeit at Glen Abbey. Most definitely not similar to this venue whatsoever. Who else? Damon seems like he'd be a pretty decent play here. Kevin Yu, if Kevin Yu could ever putt, who have been the best putters recently? And we can even take a look at spike putting rounds because we haven't done that as much recently. We'll try to see who gains more than 1.5 strokes per round or more, not per round, 1.5 strokes in a round or more on the greens over their past 24. Who has done that the most? Let's see. Scroll down here. Ooh, some guy's doing it over a quarter of the time. Mackenzie Hughes, in 62% of his rounds, is gaining more than 1.5. Lauer, Sink, Sahith is up there at 33%. Matty Schmidt, who missed the cut this week at Colonial. Mike Weir, 33%. Higo, Ramey, Martin Trainer, who's good. Mark Hubbard, around 30%. Justin Suh, that shouldn't be surprising. Bo Hossler. Pendrith, a quarter of the time is doing that. S.H. Kim, a quarter of the time is doing that as well. So we're not seeing that many big spike putting weeks. Akshay, around 1/5 of the time, is gaining 1.5 strokes or more. Almost exactly the same as Rory over that same time span, and Alex Noren. So this is sort of the range where we're seeing some of the spike putters come through. It's weird to see Lowry do that. Because when we take a look at his rounds, it's probably going to go the other way. Yeah, so he had 3 of them in a row at the PGA Championship, but before that, loss, big losses too. 1 stroke, 2 stroke, 1.2, 1.5, -4 at the Heritage. So it does seem like he's coming out of his funk a little bit, but when it goes bad for him on the greens, it's usually not treading water. Like the only time that he hasn't lost more than a stroke over the past 24 rounds when he loses was round 1 at the Players when he lost 0.8. Before that was at Hondo when he lost 0.2. But he does have some, maybe it's something to do with the design of these greens, although they were recently reconstructed, so I don't know how much that's going to translate forward. That something about these greens that Shane Lowry has actually done well on the one time that he has played on them, maybe because they are similar to some of the European style courses, which he is just more comfortable on. Ryan Fox, classic Ryan Fox, gets it going for a little bit, then absolutely implodes. We kind of saw that again. He was leading at 6 under going into the weekend, almost until he got to the 18th hole at Colonial, and then he hit it into the water on 18, and that was kind of the end of him for that week. So that's what we're seeing off the outset here. If we just go to the overall model rank, Rory, Noren, Akshay, Connors, Sahith, Kraft, Rye, Lowry, Mitchell, McNeely. McNeely could be the one who gets it done here. I can most definitely see that with the way that he can run the hot putter. Ditto for Mackenzie Hughes, and we finally did break the Canadian curse with Nick Taylor winning last year at Jeff's Club at Oakdale, and that when you had money on Tommy, it was not fun to see Taylor just continue to... Tommy just continued to blow it on that 18th hole par 5 over and over. Then Taylor made the putt. Everyone went crazy. Adam Hadwin got Goldberg speared, and that was kind of the end of it. It broke the drought. 1953 had been the last time a Canadian had won before that, but this is probably the best state of Canadian golf in a very long time. Gim, Colley, Hubbard, Novak, Lauer, Ryan Moore, Eric Van Rooyen is up there as well in terms of overall model ranking. We'll go back to rank in general, and we're just going to do a little bit of just look at some different filters right now. We'll look at short courses because that's what this is going to factor into. So we'll see, where can we go here? Less than 7,200 yards. There are very few courses playing less than 7,200 yards these days, but this is one of them. who is doing the best per round on shorter courses. We can see right now it is Daniel Berger. I wonder how long that goes back to. He did make the cut at Colonial this week, a place where he had previously won. So he hasn't played a course this short since the American Express made the cut, and before that was in 2022 because of his long layoff for injury. Just we're not seeing that many of those courses. Burns, Scott, Michael Kim, Tyler Duncan, and Rory all play these style of courses very well. Noren, Hassler, Sahith is another one who pops up. I assume Heritage would have been on that list for him. We'll see what Sam Burns, what he is doing here. I mean, he kind of fits the profile of a player that would do really well at one of these courses because he can run the hot putter. We haven't seen much from him recently in terms of high-end performances. He did have the baby, finally, I think. I mean, that was never really widely reported on, but he had the T13 at Wells Fargo, missed the cut at the PGA Championship, bad off the tee, but horrendously bad on the greens, which is not something you would normally see from him. He's only really had he had the nice run through the early part of the season, 6th at Amex, 10th at Pebble Beach, and then 3rd at Scottsdale, 13th, and then the week after he was top 10 at Genesis, and then boom, we leave the West Coast, and it's not been very good for old Sammy Burns ever since. But it was nice to see him get back on track a little bit with the short game and irons at the PGA Championship, albeit in 2 rounds. If you can get that spike putting week from him, maybe that is a spot to start looking at him a little bit more. Missed the cut at the Open last year, it would seem. Who else does well on some of these shorter courses? Thigala, Mitchell, Grayson Sigg, Stuart Sink, Bud Colley pops up again. Hubba Hubbard, Tom Kim, Bhatia is down there right now. So in the overall rankings, he comes in inside the top 10 of the power rankings, but on shorter courses, he's a little bit worse than that. Corey Connors inside the top 10, worse at shorter courses, which is really strange. But someone in that middle range, if you don't think that Rory is just going to go out and absolutely dominate, maybe Cam Young at 18. I mean, that's probably going to end up being a popular pick. You got. It's funny because you have Rory at the top, who's won, I think, 3 Canadian Opens now. Maybe he almost won 3 in a row. He's won at least 2 Canadian Opens because he won here and then he won at not Royal St. George's, at St. George's Golf and Country Club in downtown Toronto that year. I think that was the first year that all the live guys broke through. That was an awesome field that year. Hit Rory at 9-1 that year as well. Beat out Scheffler and Burns and JT. It was an awesome Canadian Open. They had the penalty box hole that year too on the par 3. Then you got like Sahith, Cam Young, Tommy. Sahith at least has a win this year. The other guys still struggling to win. Lowry picked up a win at the team event, but still doesn't have a win in the United States since Firestone was on the regular rotation on the PGA Tour. Burns hasn't won in ages. Noren's like never won, and Connors has only won those 2 tournaments in Texas. You'd actually have to go down to like the next level to find guys that actually win, be it like Nick Taylor or Tom Kim or Pendrith or Akshay. Like that collection of guys outside of Rory has more wins combined than all of that previous group. And when the odds reflect out that those other guys are most definitely going to be higher than we get to guess the odds, I can most definitely see that coming through. So we'll take that off and take a look at some of the bent putting and see if that can reveal anything to us, because as I mentioned earlier before, V8 creeping bent grass is the official layout of what we're dealing with for the terminology and what they are qualifying these greens at. We're seeing more bent grass on the PGA Tour as of late. Basically since Augusta, I think we've seen 5 or 6 tournaments, including last week at Colonial and at the PGA Championship, and the week before at the Byron Nelson. Kevin Doherty, Mav McNeely, Dylan Wu, Patrick Fishburne, Bo Hossler, Thigala, Burns, Vic Perez. Someone who does very well with greens and regulation too, Vic Perez. I wonder how he's been playing recently. Thorbjorn Olesen, David Skins. No shirts, just skins. Nikolai Højgaard putting very well on bent. Hadwin. Aaron Cockrell was in the mix in Belgium a little bit through 2 rounds this weekend, but he's someone who just primarily plays on the DP World Tour. Mac Hughes. S.H. Kim is playing, Adam Scott. These guys are all gaining more than a quarter stroke per round on bent grass. You hope for the spike to come out for them this week. We'll take a look at some of these guys that I just mentioned. See Vic Perez. How you been doing, Vic Perez? Nothing all that great. Had a nice run of ball striking basically up until the PGA Championship. Not quite sure how he was doing this week at Colonial. I'll see that tomorrow once everything updates and the tournament actually finishes. Was very bad at the greens at the PGA Championship. Probably the higher end events. Not what we're looking for old Vic Perez, but we would like to see some decent ball striking. He has possessed that through most of the season. Off the tee has been a real struggle for Adam Hadwin as of late, but shorter. I mean, the longer courses have actually been kind of where he's done well, although not long on the scorecard. Valspar does play pretty long. Riv kind of the same way. I just hope he kind of spikes with his putting. Was top 10 the last time that they played at this course as well. So those are two players to potentially look at. Let's take a look at some driving stats. And let's see, driving and putting, fairways and greens. Probably the easiest way to do it. See if we can find some good drives gained. Wish Keegan would have played this week, or like at the Canadian Open and not at Colonial, although he's inside the top 10 going into the final day. Basically has no chance of winning. Fairways gained over the past 24. You see Aaron Rai, Tommy Fleetwood, Daniel Berger, Nate Lashley. These would be sort of the default things that I would look at. I mean, listen, 143rd in the field in driving distance for Aaron Rai is not going to be great, but it doesn't seem like this is really going to overwhelm you all that much in terms of some of the, maybe proximity from beyond 200 yards is something that we can add into that. So maybe we can try to build out a new one right now and just try to take a look at some very particular things. We'll add in tee to green, won't touch anything else in terms of strokes gained metrics, and try to build this out a little bit, only because I want to see what the proximity from beyond 200 yards is, just because we see a lot of that this week, and we're going to want to put in fairways. We'll put in off the tee and fairways, so we can get a sense of guys that are gaining through both, because we don't want to discredit distance whatsoever. I mean, Rory was a winner here. We saw Garrigus do pretty well. Obviously, it's not irrelevant, but I do think that you want to be hitting fairways more than anything else, and we'll throw greens and regulation in there as well. Try not to overwhelm this too much with approach play, proximity, greens, and regulation. Those all kind of go hand in hand. We'll put in that key par 3 range, and we'll add in proximity. But we won't want to put those too high in terms of the weighting, only because they're telling us a lot of similar things. And we'll take a look at par 5s gained as well. We should probably throw in putting to go along with this, maybe 5 to 10 and 10 to 15 feet, just to give us a sense of, we don't want to disclude or disqualify anyone because of putting, because we just saw a lot of bad putters at the top of that leaderboard gaining a bunch of strokes putting. But it'd be handy to see if there's some guys that we can do pretty good with. So we'll wait tee to green, off the tee and fairways gain, give those equal ranking, a little bit higher slightly because we only have the 1 greens in regulation, a little bit lower for 200 to 225 par 3s and proximity, 200 yards, par 5s overall, pump that up a little bit, and then equal weighting for 10 to 15. A lot of these come in at 10%, 16% for greens in regulation gained, par 5s, and strokes gained tee to green. So just very rudimentary model just to see what we're looking at of who comes in number 1. Bryce Garnett, number 2. Okay. Interesting stuff. Do I have any filters on? No, just last 24. Okay. Rory, Garnett, Akshay, Noren, Rai. Those are your top 5. Mitchell, Kevin Yu, Kraft, Connor, Sahith. Mav McNeely. Round up the top 10. Then Sahith, Kevin Doherty. I keep seeing Kevin Doherty pop up here. Weird. Lowry, Rico Hui, Nate Lashley. That's another one for Nate Lashley. Bud Colley, Wacky Valimaki, Lanto, Mackenzie Hughes, Berger, Hubbard, Moore, Gim, McIntyre, and Chan Kim. Those would be the top 25. Other big names that populate inside the top 50. You got Cam Young and Fleetwood, Champ, Vic Perez, and Adam Scott are all in the 30s. Davis Thompson's number 39. Seamus Power, number 41. Pendrith comes in at 43. Brandon Wu, Joel Damon is number 50. Ben Silverman is up there as well at number 48. So let's take a look at Kevin Doherty for a second. What's this guy been up to? Doesn't feel like much. Nah, no finish better than 30th since joining the PGA Tour. Okay, let's put a big X through that guy. Nasty Nate, what have you been doing? Nasty Nate, not much of anything as of recent. Seamus Power made that little bit of a run at Heritage. Played pretty well at Wells Fargo, too. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. 2 top 20s in his past 3 starts. Been decent on approach. The putter has not cooperated at all. But the driving, the fairways are there. The chipping has been pretty good. And we've seen some spike approach weeks. Maybe Seamus Power from the back end is someone we can look at if you're looking for someone who's in triple digits. Who is this now? Vic Perez. We already looked at Vic Perez, and we already looked at Adam Hadwin. So these are some of the names that continue to populate up there as I'm going through it. It does seem like a lean towards the top of the leaderboard. Bryce Garnett was the other one I was going to take a look at. So I think for me, Noren really does stick out as an excellent play. But again, it's all going to depend on what his value is at a lot of these. The putter for Bryce Garnett has not really shown up as of late since he got his win in Puerto Rico. We do not have strokes gained from that event, but I assume that he had played pretty well in order to win. Those are on past Palom Green, so not much of a crossover, but the approach play has been really good for him. The around the green is always going to be good, and I believe that he hits a ton of fairways. That's why I'm guessing he rates out really well. Yeah, 7th in fairways gained over that time, 6th in greens and regulation, and 1st in par 3s from 200 to 225 yards. Just take a look at the proximity from beyond 200 yards in general. It's funny to see the huge discrepancy between the par 3 performance, because a lot of putting goes into that as well, or chipping if you end up missing the green on those. But McIntyre, Thorbjorn, Kevin Yu, JJ Spawn. Kevin Yu is top 10. He's 2nd in greens and regulation, top 10 in par 3s gained from 200 to 225, and 3rd in proximity from beyond 200 yards. And 4th off the tee. Everything else, not great, especially the putting. The putting for Kevin Yu, not a strong suit, I would say, for him at all. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been since Phoenix, since he actually gained strokes putting, and he missed the cut that week. Always how it goes with the crappy putters. The moment they start putting okay and are not an abject failure, the rest of their game just absolutely blows up. You see, Bhatia rates out really well here in terms of par 5s, short putting, birdie range putting, par 3s, 200 plus, greens and regulation. I thought he hit more fairways in this, to be perfectly honest with you, but his tee to green is inside the top 10 as well. So that's not actually a bad look for Bhatia here, just with all things being equal. Valimaki, Norman, Novak, all good from beyond 200 yards. So was Aaron Rai. Oh, God. I have not bet Aaron Rai in ages, so I guess it's my turn on the wheel of losers to end up betting Aaron Rai. So Rai, oh my God, Noren. Maybe it is just one of these weeks. Just hope Rory gags and one of the wheel of loser guys ends up coming through. Connors, very good from that range. Woodland, very good from that range. Had a great second round at Colonial. Eric Barnes, Taylor Pendrith, Kelly Craft, Ryan Palmer, Crazy Carl Wan. Did not have had a pretty crazy week at Colonial. It was not good for him. But anyway, that's what we're looking at. It's probably time to guess the odds for the Canadian Open, the RBC Canadian Open. Will it be the final year for the RBC? This I do not know, but there is talks that it's not going well. So there's one on an island by his own. That's going to be Rory. I have him at 7-1. Then there's going to be a drop off to what I perceive as 3 players: Sahith, Cam Young, and Tommy. I got Sahith at 14, Cam Young and Tommy both at 18-1. Then a next step down, 4 players on the docket: Lowry, Burns, Noren, and Connors. I have Lowry at 25. I have the other 3 at 28-1. I can see a give or take of 5 points. Like if Lowry started at 22 or 20, wouldn't surprise me. Or if Noren opened at 33 and was bet down to 20, that I could see as well. The mini tier after that, I have 5 names in it, and this could be populated with way more depending on how the market feels about Keith Mitchell or Adam Hadwin or Nick Taylor or some of those guys. But I do have Nick Taylor in this range, just being defending champion, Canadian hero by winning a year ago. Nick Taylor, 33, Tom Kim, 35, Pendrith, 40, Akshay, 40, and Adam Scott at 40-1. That's how I see this field breaking down. Nikolai Højgaard could work his way into that. If someone just has an amazing performance at Colonial on Sunday, they could work their way into this section of the odds as well. Be it a Keith Mitchell, Thorbjorn Olesen, Bobby Mack, whoever it might be. I don't even know those guys are playing this week. I don't think that they are. But if someone creeps up, Aaron Rai could be another one who creeps up. It opens at 45-1. You're sitting there being like, do I bet this guy? Because if he's ever going to win, it's going to be at odds that no one wants to bet him at. The same thing's going to happen to Noren. Like, we're going to look at the odds and be like, there's no way I could bet Alex Noren at those odds in a field where there's real people, and then he'll end up winning. Because that's just what he'll do. Or if everyone bets him, he'll be in the second round lead going into the weekend, have a disastrous Saturday, and then come back with an amazing round on Sunday to come in 3rd place. Because that is the Alex Noren game plan. That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. It's Canada week for the Canadian Open. I got Feinberg on Monday. I got Ulrich and Cam, Canadiens, on Tuesday for the best bets. And obviously Tambo in studio on Wednesday for all the golf content for the Canadian Open, all featuring Canadians this week. Smash the like while you're here. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy to get a deposit bonus of up to $250, and fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself 20% off all of the membership levels. All right, I'm going to go deal with my back trauma. I will see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!